like the leopard because the leopard.
I got it on my arm. Oh, boom. Feel that light behind me. I keep talking. There we go. We got to find, look, come look at your mouth. We got to find some kind of glowing light in the back over here. Do me a favor. Cut that light on. That's right. Cut that light on over there. That actually might add to it a little bit if I had a glowing light behind me. I'm going to have to figure out some kind of glowing light. Go ahead. That one.
Which one?
Cut that one. No, the other one. Yep. And cut on that one in there. Greetings, beautiful people. Ahuba, Ima, Shalom, Shalom, beautiful rising, Vinay, greetings. Audrey, Shalom, says Avia, greetings. Tabitha, Shalom, Shalom. Kendrick, Shalom, says Dawn, what's good, family? And everybody else here already hanging out in the background. I'm streaming to an extra place today. So I'm streaming to 3 places on Facebook. Because lately, for like the last year or so, I just been streaming to the page where when we originally started for like most of the first 4 years or 3.5 years, I was only going live straight from our Facebook page with the profile or whatever. So I figured, let's just add it back because I just been resharing. But now that I can add up to all these places up here, I'm like, why not? Why not? Switch the way you're facing. Hold on. Switch the way that you're facing. Face towards the sun instead of against it. Yeah, see, the sun is behind me, right? And then you'd be able to see like the rest of my kitchen into the living room. I don't know. We're going to figure it out. But for now, we're going to see. Just add like a light or something back here behind us. It's going to be changing. But for now, we're going to make it do what it do. Like, that ain't even really the main reason why we're here, but it's pleasing to the eye, right? Just doing some research and stuff on beautifying the background and stuff, so we don't look like a homemade production, even though we are a homemade production, literally. We don't want to look homely for the rest of our life. We want to get better. Like, seriously. All right, beautiful people. Happy Friday. This month has passed by so fast. Shucks, before we know it, we're going to be heading into 2024, right? All right, y'all. It is Friday, March the 31st, 2023, day 4. Yeah, day 4 of year 5 of reading through books, laws, and prophets. And of the 5-year consecutive day count, it is day 1,387. And today we're picking back up in Owaspi in the Lord's 3rd book, chapter 2, on page 97. And we're just going to read one chapter again so we can finish the rest of this long chapter. And the secret Nazarite scroll, which is also called the Holy Megillah. And we're going to pick that back up in chapter 9 of the Nazarene book of Genesis on page 50 at verse 10. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think it was 102. Yeah, because we went to that reference number 1, which was the Clementine homilies. Okay. All right. So, Father, we just thank you for daily development. Yes, daily development. All right. Because what you focus on grows. If you focus on your spirit, it too will develop and grow. Right? Auntie, hey girl, hey. Auntie said, hey Tootie. Hey. Hey. It's the first time y'all have seen her up here in a minute. Shayla, hey cousin, great rising. Just me, blessings. BC, shalom, shalom. Tifa, hey girl, hey. Mom, hey girl, hey. Lavon, bless. I just said hey to Lavon. I think I did. Maybe I didn't. No, I didn't. Hey Lavon, blessings. All right, y'all, let's get started here. Because we're getting into part 2 of Lucifer masquerading as Yahweh. It was pretty good yesterday, huh? Yo, it's gonna get so much better, so much better. Okay, listen, so much more enlightening or scary, shall I say, for those who didn't know that there was a whole masquerade ball going on. Yes, girl. No, leave my phone because I might need to look something up real quick while I need to reach for it. You ain't been doing this for the last 5 years. My phone gonna stay right here, even though I got to use it no more. Go find go get the iPad. Is it dead? We're just gonna make sure it's charging. All right, beautiful people. Did Jeremiah already leave out? Oh, okay. That's Jeremiah, babe. I forgot you walked out the door. All right, beautiful people. Chapter 2, the Lord's third book. It's on the bottom half of page 97. God said, suffer not the ennui to dwell with the Ehines, lest the seed of my chosen be lost. The ennuis came suddenly into the world, came in the north and south and east and west, came by thousands and thousands. And they had long hair, black and coarse, but their skin was brown, copper colored, and their arms were short like the Ehines. All right, son, love you. Very proud were the ennuis. They would not mix with the Ehines, and they dared not mix with the sacred people because of the commandment of the Lord. So the Onguigan became a new race in the world, having all the symmetry of the Ehines and the savageness of the Ehuans, and being feeders on flesh and fish, fell under the dominion of angels of the lower heaven, and they rejected the Lord God. The Lord said, even this will I appropriate for their own salvation in time to come. So the Lord commanded the Ehines to give to the Onguis laws, rites, and ceremonies, and these things were done as commanded. Then came the angels of the lower heaven, teaching the Onguis the secret of making eunuchs of their enemies, the Ehuans with the long arms, teaching them how to make spears and bows with arrows, and darts and fishing hooks and nets, teaching them how to make fire by striking flint stones, teaching them how to cook flesh and fish to make them more palatable. And this was the first cooked food for man since the days of the flood. The Ehines feared the Lord would visit a judgment upon the land because of the Onguis killing and eating flesh. But the Lord said unto them, Suffer ye the Onguis Suffer ye the Onguis to fulfill their labor. Too full is all the land with beasts and serpents. Nevertheless, it shall come to pass that a great destruction shall come upon the Ehuans and the ground people and the Onguis. Their great cities shall be destroyed, and the lands laid desolate, but I will rebuild them again with greater glory than in this day. So it came to pass, as the Lord had spoken through the Ehine prophets, in 300 years, the large and handsome race, the Onguis, transcended the long-armed Ehuans, the short-legged race. And at the middle of this verse, when it says in 300 years, after 100, it has a reference number 2. And down at the bottom, it says 3,000 years, whereas up here in the top, it said 300 years. In verse 9, God said, Hear me, O man, understand the labor of the Lord thy God. Jehovah said to the Lord, Go thou yonder earth and make man upright on 2 feet. And the Lord accomplished it. Then said Jehovah, Go yonder and make man shapely on the earth. And the Lord findeth the way to do this also. Forget not the Lord thy God. Such labor will fall to thy lot when thou art long risen in heaven. Behold, there are millions of worlds new coming into being every day. Expand thy judgment, make thyself comprehensive, that thou mayest fulfill in wisdom the glory of the Almighty. And that is the end of chapter 2. And that was only 10 verses. But that's cool, right? Because we're going to pause right there. Jamia, shalom, shalom. Grand Rising Nazarene and scene. Fritz, shalom, shalom. And everybody else here already hanging out in the background. Let's get to it. The secret scroll, y'all. Let's pick this back up. So, quick recap. We find out that in the garden, the Lord thy God was actually Lucifer masquerading. And if you missed that yesterday, you have to go back and listen to how it went down, right? So that was just a quick summation of what we went over yesterday. So I said we was going to start at 102. Let me just go back up a little bit to 86, right? To 86. when he was saying that their flesh is not dense enough to even leave the garden, and he tell them what they need to do to leave the garden or get kicked out of the garden, right? They don't know they're about to be kicked. Listen, verse 86, and we're at the bottom of page 50 if you have the updated version. Okay. Verse 86. Lucifer again spoke to Adam and Eve. Remember, we realize that the voice of the Creator comes from within, and they were hearing that. But then this voice that they heard coming from outside of them, they found to be hanging out at the borders of Cush or Cush, however you want to pronounce it, right? They went to go find the voice. And when they got there to the voice, it said, I am the Lord thy God, right? Yeah, hear my voice, listen to me, follow me, and I'm going to get y'all up out of this little garden that's been holding y'all in bondage. Not realizing that they were created free, right? Listen to this. Now they are enslaved light inside of flesh. Because our spirit is pure light. It's encapsulated now with, we'll just call it animal flesh, a different type of animal, right? A ennui is what Owaski calls it, a talking animal now. Listen. Verse 86. Dana, hey girl, hey, shalom. Verse 86, page 50. Lucifer again spoke to Adam and Eve, saying, if I am to save you, you must do what I say. I will now teach you many things. The evil one has trapped you in this garden, trying to tell them that Creator was evil, right? Listen. Lucifer again spoke to Adam and Eve, saying, if I am to save you, you must do what I say. I will now teach you many things. The evil one has trapped you in this garden. I have prepared a cave for you outside of the garden, but you cannot yet step across the border of the garden because you are too light. Yea, before you can step across this border, you must become more dense. And I cannot enter the garden because my body is strong. Yea, only the weak may enter the garden. See how you're trying to play that Jedi mind trick on them. But I will reveal to you the way to become strong of body, that you may escape the garden. You must eat the flesh of animals, but now you cannot eat their flesh because you are not dense enough. Therefore, you must grow more dense, which can be accomplished by killing creatures. After you have slain animals, you will grow dense enough to eat their flesh. And when you eat their flesh, you will grow even more dense and will be able to leave the garden. I think eating placenta falls into this realm that he's talking about as well, because you ain't supposed to be eating that either. I'm just saying, I just want to throw that in here today. I know people have made that a thing. Bro, you still eating flesh. Now you're eating human flesh. You're cannibal now, right? You have become a cannibal. Yep, you may get these superpowers, but it ain't coming from where you think it's coming from or where you want it to come from. It ain't. Listen. Right. They didn't even need a savior. They were already free. Saviors come to free those in bondage. They were shining, brilliant, free light. I told you, Jedi mind trick from the beginning. Listen. And when you eat their flesh, you will grow even more dense and will be able to leave the garden. Hold on. Let me go back up. But I will reveal to you the way you may become strong of body, that you may escape the garden. You must eat the flesh of animals. But now you cannot eat their flesh because you are not dense enough. Therefore, you must grow more dense, which can be accomplished by killing creatures. After you have slain animals, you will grow dense enough to eat their flesh. And when you eat their flesh, you will grow even more dense and will be able to leave the garden. Lo, once you eat flesh, I will be able to enter your body and speak from within you. Now I am only able to speak to you from outside of you. Also know this, I have created you so that I can take pleasure with you. When I enter you, I will be able to enjoy whatever you enjoy, for your senses will become my senses. And people that are possessed, they experience this one-on-one. Something has entered to enjoy the the senses of their body, right? And it's a war going on, and sometimes it's multiple disembodied spirits that have entered to take your car on a drive. Therefore, go now into the garden and find a lamb. This is where the blood sacrifice of the lamb was introduced, bro. Therefore, go now into the garden and find a lamb, and slay that lamb, and pour the blood of the lamb upon your hands. Make a spear from a branch in the manner that I teach you. But the branch you use to kill the lamb must be taken from the tree of life. For by such a deed you will break your allegiance to that tree and declare your allegiance to me. Yea, by that act you will prove you are my children and will become strong and dense like me. But be warned, when you go to take a branch from that tree, eat not of its fruit. If you do, your body will become so light you will surely die. No, your voice is going to die to me. Matter of fact, I'm hungry, Eve. Let's go. I got a taste for some fruit from this tree of life. Listen. After Lucifer instructed Adam and Eve in the art of making spears, he sent them into the garden to kill a lamb. Lucifer said, when you kill the lamb, bring its body to me as an offering. Sound familiar? Nisha, shalom, shalom. Right. That Dana, that's what I said. But why didn't they question what he was saying? Didn't make sense. Wait a minute, but Adam did. Remember, he asked the question. He did. I think he should have continued down that path of questioning, but he didn't. Listen, because back on page 49, verse 62, when Lucifer had just told him, he said, for I am the Lord your God, I am a jealous God, and you will have no other God before me, right? And he said, if you don't listen to what I say, my rod, I'm going to swing across your back. But right now, you ain't going to be able to feel the strength of my rod on your back because you this whole light being spirit. So we need to make you more dense. That way, when you disobey what I done told you, I can break you down. I can tear your backside up, right? And Adam and Eve, I'm like, bro, y'all were like connected to Ein Sof, the realm of infinite possibilities where creator lives and moves and have his being. Why don't you just check in? Why don't you check in against the AI? Well, not the AI, the OI that you were attached to. Organic intelligence versus this artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence can only spit out what the original or the organic intelligence programs it with, right? It can be programmed to learn, but you should have checked it against the true database. He did it a little bit, he did, but listen to what he said. Listen. And if you obey my voice, if you eat from my tree and shun the tree in the center of the garden, your seed will become like my seed. And Adam spoke to Lucifer, asking, my Lord, since you are our father, why are we not already your seed? I'm like, there you go, Adam, there you go. But it didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to, right? He kept on, he put him in a deep state. Literally. Then he grew angry. You know how sometimes you go to ask somebody something and they realize you about to start asking more questions, so they just flip out on you. So Lucifer flipped out on him, right? I'm the Lord your God. Everything I say you do. And he said, well, excuse me, Lord, my God. If you're already our father, shouldn't we already be seed of your seed? Why do we have to be made your seed? Satan flipped out. Lucifer flipped out. And he asked him, that was the first question. He said, and why, when you created the garden, did you put the bad tree in the center of the garden? Verse 64 says, Lucifer grew angry and shouted with a voice like thunder, how dare you question the Lord your God? He scared the piss out of Adam. Adam, it completely threw him, because he could have gotten free if he didn't let the voice freak him out. Remember, he had to remember what he said. His body wasn't dense enough, so he could have tried to beat his tail, but it wouldn't work, right? So if Adam had been thinking, he could have kept on down the line of his path of questioning, because his body wasn't dense enough for Lucifer to beat yet. Like, I would have been all in Lucifer's face. Like, bro, try your best. You already told me I'm light and you can't do nothing to me. But okay, so let's go back. Listen. Lucifer said, okay, boom, offering. Verse 112. Hop on over to page 51. Adam said, let me shut up. Oh, shoot. Hold on, y'all. Boom. There we go. All right. Yeah. Look, that was cannibalism at its best, right? Nazarene is seen. Tabitha said, maybe as they ate the flesh, they take on the persona of each of the animals. This process changed their body chemistry. That is an actual true fact that will happen. That's why a lot of times meat eaters, they have their not all of them not extremely angry, but there's this type of anger, the hormones and all that stuff start mixing within your system, and it changes stuff, right? That has been scientifically proven now, which is why when you stop eating, those of us who have stopped eating flesh and blood, we stop eating meat, we realize how we begin to get softer in spirit, right? And then you begin to develop this love for nature and for animals because you stop eating them. So they're not at war with you anymore, right? And so now you just it's just it you just if you don't understand it, you have to test it. Like go on a fast from meat for 30 days, then do 60, then do 90. Give it some time to develop and loosen your spirit up so your spirit can be set free, at least from the animals that's worn on the inside of you in your belly that you are constantly consuming, right? I know that might sound a little bit harsh, but I come from a meat eating kingdom. And I can tell you that it ain't nothing but the truth. When you stop, the animals, they're no longer at war with you, right? And that there is a natural love or organic love that develops on the inside of you. All right, listen. I know, right? Look, he got him, and he scared the piss out of Adam. Jamil, let me shut up. Okay, look. Okay, y'all. Uncle JB, shalom, shalom. All right. Verse. Let's go back. So, verse 105. Make a spear from a branch in the manner that I teach you, but the branch you use to kill the lamb must be taken from the tree of life. For by such a deed you will break your allegiance to that tree and declare your allegiance to me, or that you're going to break your allegiance to true creator. All right. That's exactly what Lucifer was telling Adam in the garden. But he using a Jedi mind trick, and Adam already scared because he raised his voice at him. For by such a deed you will break your allegiance to that tree and declare your allegiance to me. Yea, by that act you will prove you are my children and will become strong and dense like me. But be warned, when you go to take a branch from that tree, do not eat of its fruit. If you do, your body will become so light you will surely die. And Lucifer instructed Adam and Eve in the art of making spears. He sent them into the garden to kill a lamb. Lucifer said, when you kill the lamb, bring its body to me as an offering. Then I will make you initiates of my temple. Yea, I will instruct you in the rituals of the temple of the serpent. Adam and Eve walked in the midst of the garden. Adam said to Eve, I do not want to kill a lamb, but we must obey the Lord God. Eve said, it feels wrong within me, but he is the Lord our God. Adam and Eve climbed the mountain in the center of the garden and found the tree of life. But before Adam broke a branch to make a spear, Eve said, behold, the time has come for me to birth our first child. Yea, even now the baby wants out. Indeed, Eve was pregnant and about to give birth. For in the time of play in the garden, before they had gone to hear the voice like thunder, Adam and Eve had made love as they lay beneath the branches of the tree of life. And in the time before humankind, and in this time before humankind had dense bodies, the time between conception and birth was brief. Because they couldn't have been gone from the garden over there to the borders of Cush no longer than a couple hours talking to Lucifer, right? And if y'all had just got it on before we left out the garden, and she said, listen, before we go snatch this branch over here to make a spill, the baby won't out now. Like, bro, 2-hour conception time. Of course, that may be a little exaggeration or whatever. But clearly, if you're a light and we understand that you can emanate from your essence another whole being into the spiritual realm, right? Listen, did y'all and I said I was gonna be there last night. Did y'all watch Doctor Strange over together in a group? Did y'all get a chance to? We was out the whole day. I didn't get a chance to watch it with y'all, but I still watched it last night, right? So was y'all paying attention now based on my outro? And was y'all paying attention to the words of it now and all the truth that they were giving you from the time the movie started? Like they're just pouring it out. That's why I love Marvel movies. They do that in every single one of them. They put these spiritual truths out there, right? Listen, in that movie, remember when what's the guy? I keep screwing up his name. The student that had gone rogue, start with a K. Him, right? At the very beginning, the very first scene, they show him going into the library, the sanctum, getting one of those books from the master's collection and taking out one of those spells, but it was the spell for time, right? So he went rogue. Remember, and I say that because remember when I was telling y'all, when I introduced y'all to the magic books, right? And I was like, listen, I just want y'all, because I know it works, don't get off up in here, go and try and cast and spells and stuff. I'm letting you know they work so you know that magic, they call it magic. The world that don't understand calls it magic, right? And they write it in the words that the world can understand, right? But it's really being able to manipulate principles and understanding the spiritual elements around you, right? If you go in there and start messing with stuff, and I thought Doctor Strange was a really, really good depiction of this. You go in there and you start messing with stuff and you don't stay on the path of light, you by default flip over to the dark realm, right? And now you're searching for Dormammu. If you watch it, you know what I'm talking about. But Doctor Strange, when he came in, and it shows you how you have to bring your own self into alignment, right? You got to work out all the demons in your own soul. Otherwise, when you get a hold to this, it's going to take you down a dark path, which is why the students who had went rogue, they didn't spend that time cleaning up their own spirits or whatever, right? They didn't learn how to get their egos under control. So when they got access to that level, it sent them off. They thought they was doing what was right, but it sent them off to a dark path, right? And it just created havoc. So I mentioned that but it's the same thing now that I understand all of this. You can like see it, or I can see it everywhere. Not that you can't, but you can literally see it everywhere happening all around you. And so when I mentioned the magic books, the last one that I mentioned that I brought up the other day was that one. Remember? Listen. And I say, listen, these are some of the darker spells. And hold on, let me get it again. I'm gonna explain to y'all why. Also, when you watch it, if y'all don't do this, if you watch the Marvel movies, anytime somebody is in a scene and they're reading a book, pay attention to the book. That's something I learned a long time ago. So I do that with every movie now. Pay attention to the books that people are reading within the movie, because sometimes they'll get up on it real close so you can see it. Like the one in there when this man was on the bus and they had brought the training world to the outside realm to encase all the foolery that was going on. That man was inside that bus reading the Doors of Perception. That book, The Doors of Perception, you can get, I'm telling you, all of this stuff is strategically placed within the movie so you can catch it, and it gives you a little bit more of spiritual understanding into this realm and spiritual laws. The Doors of Perception is a really, really good one, right? You got to go check it out. It's on, you can get Audible, Kindle, and you can get the printed book. I got the printed book and the Audible for it. I didn't get the Kindle because somebody said there was like different typos in there, and I just didn't want to fool with it. And I was already listening to it on the the audiobook. But listen, so this is the one I told y'all about, right? This right here. So remember we was talking about the phantom pregnancy. I was like, yeah, I can't believe that. That's stupid, right? That can't happen. This is Doctor Strange? Yes, Doctor Strange. Yeah, a Marvel movie, Doctor Strange. You got part 1 and part 2, but we're talking about part 1. I'm going to watch I haven't seen part 2 yet, right? I'm super excited to watch it. It's on Amazon Prime, so I'll watch that before the week is out. Listen. So when we was talking about the phantom pregnancy, how somebody can be pregnant with twins, and then after a certain period of the pregnancy, like they didn't seen the second child on the ultrasound, and then one day the second child is gone. Right. The first time I heard about it when I was watching this series Evil, there was an episode on a phantom child, but she was like in 9 months when the daughter had disappeared. Like they normally talk about this in the first trimester, which is why they can kind of explain it away. I'm like, something is still wrong about this, right? Something is wrong about this. Now, when I understood that that could be a real thing, and it wasn't just for movies, and they have cases with this, I'm like, well, maybe I'm definitely lacking information, right? And so as I started going through some of this stuff, I had a thought about this particular one, and also the Keys of Solomon. Inside of there is one of them books in the library that Dr. Strange checks out. Listen, pay attention. Books on astral projection, all of these different things. Pay attention to every single word the master teacher tells you. The bald-headed lady, right? Everything, just about everything that comes out of her mouth in this movie, she's dropping spiritual bombs of enlightenment for those who will catch it. Listen, some of these things I found out just through practice and learn. I'm like, yo, what did she just say? Yo, I just experienced that. Listen. So this right here, demons of magic, right? This would freak a lot of people out, but I only recommended this stuff only so you can know what is out there and what people be using. And this particular brand, because he's a really, really good teacher, and he lets you know, he explains, he gives you a unbiased understanding of the good side and the bad side, and what would happen, and the things that you create if you so choose to dabble in it and use it against people to harm them, right? But if you understand how this works, just like what the master teacher was doing, and one of her brightest students got mad when he found out she was practicing the dark arts. She wasn't necessarily practicing the dark arts, but she understood the dark arts, because when her students got out of line and they went rogue, she had to use some, I call them higher laws, to encapsulate the foolishness that they had begun to unleash on the world, so to speak, right? And so when one of her top students, he didn't quite understand that, and he was just pissed. He was like, you telling us not to use this, but you are a hypocrite. You are using the dark arts, like you're using dark magic. She wasn't using dark magic, but she had to use a law. And because of the law they pulled out to use, she had to get something of a greater nature of this kind to capture that. And when her students saw that, they didn't understand and they got pissed. And it's just, you got to kind of understand. It's the same thing with spirituality here in the Christian church, or wherever you want to call it. People call it works of Satan. Nope, you misunderstand what this really is, right? So that's why I said read through it, get familiar with it. I'm not saying to go practice it, but at least you can understand. So if you can see spiritually, and as you're growing spiritually, you can recognize it if it's being done, especially if there are attacks, or church people call it spiritual attacks on family members. You can clearly see right to the you can get to the root cause of what's happening. And if you are all Jesus all the time, and just stay away from Satan at all times, I don't want to hear nothing. Nope, you are possessed. Have you joined a cult? They don't want to hear nothing about it, which is why they always the ones at the altar trying to get free, because they don't understand crap. Just give me all the good. And even that's something that the teacher in Dr. Strange explains, that you can't just have, and I'm gonna put it in my words, you can't just have all the good stuff. Like there has to be a balance, and most people are imbalanced, right? There has to be a balance. So that's one thing. But we even learn from here, the whole point of me getting this, and shucks, the Keys of Solomon, some of this stuff, Solomon was doing this stuff. Solomon was practicing some of the, we'll call it dark arts, but he was actually operating on higher laws. But I realized and understanding some of this and some spiritual experiences that I had, now I'm like, wait a minute. So maybe they termed it phantom pregnancy, but I think it's actually a higher law, a higher principle that's happening. Now I understand that a little bit more here in these last few weeks and some of the things that I know, because even now we can emanate beings from ourselves. We can literally create spirits, emanate them from ourselves, and have them to do our bidding, so to speak, right? I'm not telling you that you should go do this, but you definitely should know that in the realm of Ein Sof, there is nothing that is impossible. It is the infinite realm of possibilities. And that's what people are doing. They're tapping into the realm of infinite possibilities, causing these things to happen. And when it manifests here in a physical realm, we ain't got no names for it, right? But only those who are spiritual and have tapped in can understand what's happening, and we can help bring the balance back to the world, which was the main thing the teacher was trying to teach her pupils, right? We're here to bring balance, stay on the path of light, right? So when things are getting out of control, you understand what's happening. You're able to diagnose it just like that, and you fix it, right? Fix it, encapsulate it before it's unleashed upon the world. Listen, this is amazing. Some of these movie producers, some of these movie producers may be under influence by spirits who need to clean up the messes they made and are dropping nuggets in the movie. I agree with that, just me, right? What we learned from Owaspy, like when you leave this realm and you got messes that you created, definitely you have to clean it up, right? Those people you've led astray, you have to clean up the messes. I agree with that. They may be influenced by some of those that are trying to clean up the messes that they've made while they still had their flesh. I don't disagree with that at all, right? I think it's a little bit of that. And I think it's a little bit of enlightenment because of the era we've moved into, which Owaspy calls it the Cosmon era, where there's going to be this like spiritual awakening across the globe on the earth, where people are going to start now getting in tune with their spirits. That's why you have this big influx of meditation and all of this stuff, and people are leaving the churches and all these religious factions by the masses, which the church teaches you the great, they calling it the great exodus from the church, or those who are going to be led astray in the last days by the millions. I'm like, bro, like it's just like what Satan doing to them in the garden here. They get you coming and going, right? And don't even realize it. And then they raise your voice. I am the Lord thy God. Don't you dare question me. I'm gonna get my rod and put it on your back. I go, oh shoot, Jesus, just cast my crown down. I'm just holy, 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 holy. Yep, all this all we do all day. I'm like, bro, my body is growing lighter by the day. Y'all regents ain't scaring me no more. Like what? What? You want to try and hit my back, do you? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go right. I'm pure light, baby. I'm pure light. Y'all don't scare me no more. Pure light, baby. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Look, okay, let me go back to this. Okay. Page 51, verse 111. After Lucifer instructed Adam and Eve in the art of making spears, he sent them into the garden to kill a lamb. Lucifer said, when you kill the lamb, bring its body to me as an offering. I will then make you initiates of my temple. Yea, I will instruct you in the rituals of the temple of the serpent. Adam and Eve walked into the midst of the garden. Adam said to Eve, I do not want to kill a lamb, but we must obey the Lord God. Eve said, it feels wrong within me, but he is the Lord our God. Adam and Eve climbed the mountain in the center of the tree. Adam and Eve climbed the mountain in the center of the garden and found the tree of life. But before Adam broke a branch to make a spear, Eve said, behold, the time has come for me to birth our first child. Yea, even now the baby wants out. Indeed, Eve was pregnant and about to give birth. For in the time of play in the garden, before they had gone to hear the voice like thunder, Adam and Eve had made love as they lay beneath the branches of the tree of life. And in this time, before humankind had dense bodies, the time between conception and birth was brief. And we can also read this when you read in the legends of the Jews and how the portion in the Bible, they scrub Lilith away, right? But it teaches you who Lilith was and how all these babies that was being made and how they were doing it. They were literally doing it like what the Holy Megillah tells us is happening. They were literally emanating them from their essences of light, from their essence of light. Hold on. Indeed, Eve was pregnant and about to give birth, for in time of play, the garden, for in the time of play in the garden, before they had gone to hear the voice like thunder, Adam and Eve had made love as they lay beneath the branches of the tree of life. And in this time, before humankind had dense bodies, the time between conception and birth was brief. Adam said, "We will make a spear and kill a lamb after our baby is born." Eve pointed out Eve pointed to a spot beneath the branches of the tree of life and said, "There is where we made love and made this baby. I feel that I should birth the baby there." Derek, shalom, shalom. Lo, beneath the branches of the tree of life, Eve gave birth to her first son. Hold on. I'm trying to move this off the screen, y'all. Lo, beneath the branches of the tree of life, Eve gave birth to her first child. Adam said, "Behold, we are blessed with a son." Adam and Eve named the boy Abdiel, which means servant of Elohim. And after Abdiel is reference number 2, and 2 at the bottom is a pretty good size reference. It says, in this Nazarene Bible, the first 2 children of Adam and Eve are named Abdiel and Cain. In the Orthodox Bible, their first 2 children are named Abel and Cain. Let us look at the meanings of those names. Abdiel, a Hebrew name, means servant of Elohim. That is the name used in this Nazarene Bible. The name used in the Orthodox Bible, Abel, sounds similar to Abdiel, but is a different word with a different meaning. Abel in Hebrew is Hebel, at Hebel, and literally means morning mist. By implication, Hebel also means worthlessness, emptiness, and vanity. Those negative meanings come from the sense of mist as being insubstantial. The name Cain is Hebrew. The name Cain in Hebrew is Cain, Qayin, which means spear. Because spearheads are often made of metal, the word Cain also means spear maker, spearhead, metal, and metal worker. The story of Abdiel and Cain in the Nazarene Bible is fundamentally different than the story of Abel and Cain in the Orthodox Bible. Okay, so go back up, and we were on verse 129. Adam and Eve named the boy Abdiel, which means servant of Elohim. And the reason they chose that name is as follows. While Eve had given birth, perched upon the top center branch of the tree of life. Hold on. While Eve had given birth, perched upon the top center tree. Hold on. Keep screwing it up. While Eve had given birth, perched upon the top center branch of the tree of life was a white dove singing. Yea, the dove sweetly sang the name Abdiel while Eve gave birth to the baby boy. Within her, Eve felt that this was a fitting name for her son. Adam also heard the song of the dove and knew this to be the true name of his son. Behold, Eve put the baby to her breast, and Abdiel drank her milk and was nourished. Then the family slept together beneath the branches of the tree of life. The white dove sang while they slept. The next morning, when they awoke, Adam said to Eve, "We must break off a branch from this tree and make a spear. We must obey the command of the Lord our God. We must slay a lamb." Eve said, "A voice within warns me not to do this thing." Adam said, "I too hear that voice, but we must not listen." See, Lucifer had already gotten into their heads where they are literally disregarding the creator's word to them saying, don't do it, baby, don't do it. Don't do it. That voice came from outside of you. Like the voice is trying to reason with them to keep them from doing it, right? Adam said, I too hear that voice, but we must not listen. The Lord our God told us to ignore that voice. We must obey the Lord. Eve made a bed of leaves for Abdiel beneath the tree. She placed him upon the bed to sleep and said to Adam, I will help you break off a branch. Adam and Eve tried to break off a branch from the tree of life, but they could not. This tree is too strong, said Adam. Let us make a spear from another tree, said Eve. And so it was that Adam and Eve broke off a branch of another tree and made a spear. Adam said, we now have a spear. Let us hunt for a lamb to kill. When they had found a lamb and were about to slay it with the spear, behold, another lamb came forth and spoke, saying, spare the lamb, spear me instead. Adam and Eve both took hold of the spear. Together they drove the spear through the body of the lamb. As the lamb bled to death, Adam asked, why did you offer yourself in the place of the other lamb? The lamb said, I forgive you, for you know not what you do. Because I forgive you, the consequences of this act would not be as great as if I did not forgive you. The other lamb may not have forgiven you, then the consequences would have been far greater. The consequences are still great, but this way you will have a second chance. Now that speaks abundance in itself, an abundance of things, right? There's a lamb that is aware of what's happening. Listen to this. Let me read it again. Because remember, the animals in the garden at this time, they were also pure light, just like Adam and Eve. Not the same, of course, they were animals or whatever, but they were too pure light, and they had a special intelligence about them as well. Listen, I'm gonna go back up to verse 151. Adam said, we now have a spear. Let us hunt for a lamb to kill. When they had found a lamb and were about to slay it with the spear, behold, another lamb came forth and spoke, saying, spare that lamb, spear me instead. Adam and Eve both took hold of the spear. Together they drove the spear through the body of the lamb. As the lamb bled to death, Adam asked, why did you offer yourself in place of the other lamb? The lamb said, I forgive you, for you know not what you do. Because I forgive you, the consequences of this act will not be as great as if I did not forgive you. Now think about that. Think about in the context of dealing with other people, right? Not that you truly offering yourself to die, but when you understand more spiritual principles, you can kind of make yourself a proxy. You can kind of take some of the brunt of the foolishness that's happening because you understand it a little bit better. Thereby, spiritually, you actually, by you extending grace, by putting yourself in the mix, you actually also extend grace to them until they can understand and see what's happening, right? Listen. This is so good. Listen, verse 155. As the lamb bled to death, Adam asked, why did you offer yourself in the place of the other lamb? The lamb said, I forgive you, for you know not what you do. Because I forgive you, the consequences of this act will not be as great as if I did not forgive you. The other lamb may not have forgiven you, and then the consequences would have been far greater. The consequences are still great, but this way you will have a second chance. And when my blood is spilled upon the tree of life, it will be as the water of life, and that will defeat the plan of Lucifer. The lamb died, and Adam and Eve understood not the meaning of his words. Then, as Lucifer had instructed, Adam and Eve poured the blood of the lamb upon their hands. Adam said, my mind is in torment. I am in anguish. Eve said, I feel terrible. I am sad and miserable. Adam said, let us take the body of the lamb to the Lord our God. Perhaps he can make us feel better. All right, babe. Love you. Adam and Eve left Abdiel in his bed of leaves, for he was asleep, and they did not wish to disturb him. They climbed down the mountain and found Lucifer waiting for them at the border of Cush. Lucifer was pleased when he saw the slain lamb. he said, behold, I am Yahweh, the Lord your God. See, he's still going on with the foolishness. Dawn, listen. Yes, hold on. Listen. But didn't they say the dove represents Jah and the lamb Jade? Didn't they say the dove represents Janah and the lamb Jade? Did it say that? I think it did say that. I think it did say that back in a couple chapters previously. Yeah, I think it did say that. So Dawn said, wonder if this is where the Bible gets the need for the slain lamb Jesus manipulating the story. I absolutely think so.
You didn't make no sound off or nothing like that for this project.
What?
The Scoochie.
Scoochie. I'll send it to you in a minute. They normally send their paperwork.
They didn't send nothing.
I'll pull it up. I got you. Okay. Wonder if this is where the Bible gets the need for the slain lamb Jesus manipulating the story. I absolutely think so. Right now that we're getting a little bit more of the picture, you can tell the pieces that were pulled out without giving the rest of the story of what's really happened here, right? I think so. Hold on. Verse 161. The lamb died, and Adam and Eve understood not the meaning of his words. Then, as Lucifer had instructed, Adam and Eve poured the blood of the lamb upon their hands. Adam said, my mind is in torment. I am in anguish. Eve said, I feel terrible. I am sad and miserable. Adam said, let us take the body of the lamb to the Lord our God. Perhaps he can make us feel better. Adam and Eve left Abdiel in his bed of leaves, for he was asleep, and they did not wish to disturb him. They climbed down the mountain and found Lucifer waiting for them at the border of Cush. Lucifer was pleased when he saw the slain lamb. He said, behold, I am Yahweh, the Lord God. I am pleased with your offering. Did you slay the lamb with a spear made from the tree in the center of the garden? Adam said, that tree was too strong. We could not break off a branch, because the tree of life is not giving you anything from it to harm any creature. That's why you couldn't break it off, right? It knew your intentions. It was not giving of itself to help you commit murder against your brethren, right? Adam said that tree was too strong. We could not break off a branch. We used a branch from another tree to make a spear. Lucifer, masquerading as Yahweh, was enraged. With a voice like thunder, he shouted, how dare you disobey a commandment of the Lord your God? I would let you feel the rod of my chastisement upon your back, but you are still not dense enough to feel its fire. You see, here they had the second chance. Bro, you can't beat my tail. Why is we here, Eve? Why is we here? Right? They should have left. Like, dude is running off at the mouth, threatening to beat us. But he's telling us that he can't because we're not dense enough. And he feeding us this garbage on how to get dense so he can beat us down. Like, I ain't with this plan, Eve. Let's roll. That's what Adam should have said. I ain't with this plan, Eve. Let's roll. Eve was already saying, Adam, something don't feel right about this. It's always the women most of the time with the intuition. You know, it's something ain't right about this. I can't quite put my finger on it, but something ain't right. Hold on. Tabitha said, remember, guys, that the whole Bible story of Genesis to Revelation, it's the work of false Osiris and Luamon with the help of Thoth. So the Bible writers are just the copy printers. I absolutely agree with that, right? But we get into some of the details of what was happening. We know they created the story, the Bible. The Christians don't, right? We used to be Christians. We didn't know that until we started reading outside of it and realizing, wait a minute. First of all, we realized you copied this from the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian scripts. But as we begin to study the Babylonian scripts, we realized they were also thieves from the Sumerians. Wait, so the Bible that we have essentially comes from the Sumerian text. We are reading Sumerian text, and we fighting and killing people and cursing, damning people to hell over a Sumerian text where they changed the names and the stories just a little taste, like Malachi said, just a little taste. And now you got a whole story that you fighting with your brethren and your sister and on that ain't even true, They doing what Lucifer did. We're gonna mix a little bit of truth with a little bit of lies, and we're gonna make it hard to separate what's really going on, right? That's what I began to realize when I began to go through the book of Leviticus. Like the Torah was my junk, right? But the more I began to read it instead, I was like, I'm gonna put this to practice. Not only the harder it became, but I began to really critique it and critique myself. And why can't I do this? And that's when I began to realize, hold on, there are multiple voices speaking here that I didn't realize before, right? And then it's like, wait a minute, hold on. This seems like this is mixed because it switches here. But every time it seems to get to the sacrifices, the tone of the voice changes, even mixed through the feast days and stuff. Remember when I'll never forget this, because we was going live, I think it was about in the 3rd year. I was like, y'all, something is not right about these sacrifices that Israel is doing. Y'all got to go back to some of the early videos before I really understood what was happening. I was so clueless, but every day I was getting closer because it just began to radiate on the inside of me. Like I was honing in on something that I had no clue what was about to happen. Like the knowledge that I have now, and it's been there in front of our face the entire time. That comes from constantly reading and being diligent to something, like really trying to get to the truth of the matter. My heart was in the right place, which began to uncover the lies. And it blew me away. Like I was sick. I was sick when I realized what was truly happening on the inside of the Bible, right? Listen, hold up. Let me find my spot first. Okay, 180. Look, if y'all go back, y'all hear me say, yo, for some reason, these sacrifices won't let me go, y'all. And the more I began to study it, the more books I began to pull in, I began to look at the other side, the other nations that the Bible mentioned, and realized they had Bibles too. And then as I began to look at some of their rituals and their stuff and the God that they was following, I realized it was no different from what Israel was doing. Matter of fact, if we remove the names, we would think that this was Israel. Israel was literally doing what they call the heathen nations was doing, right? They were slaughtering, and there was no different, right? Because they serving the same God. They divide you, but yet you still, all of you being kept in foolery, right? I'm like, wait a minute, something is wrong. And then I began to read through the Bible. As I began to notice every other passage or whatever where the voices would change, I realized you could separate the voices. And then there was a voice that you found within there where it's literally, and it is a little bit, they added a little bit of truth. The rest of it is darkness, but it was pure light, right? And then you began to put that pure light against everything else, and they had to add in the blood sacrifice, the rituals and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. They added into Leviticus 23 with the feast, and it's like, oh, so you add that. I say, that's disgusting. They mixing truth with lies and murder. And then I got a Bible where I went through and I just started crossing out everything where I saw dark voices, everything that said sacrifice, and you get a whole different type of story that the Bible is laying out for you. I'm like, holy crap. And that blew me away, which caused me to further search into the occultic materials and stuff and the other things that they told us we should not touch because it's of the devil. And I realized that those are gatekeeping words to keep you asleep and keep you not realizing what they have done to the Bible that they are feeding you and say it's okay. And it's the pure, unadulterated word of God. It is the pure, manipulated word of man. That's what it is. It's a little bit of truth from the creator, and everything else in there is garbage. Yeah, I said it. But I still keep a copy of it because I have something where I can help people. Like, once you get free, you got to go back and set your brethren free, right? That's where I came from. I know it inside and out, right? So that's our conversation point. That's something that I can find some commonalities where we can talk peacefully amongst one another and just get into it without like, bro, you know, the Bible is manipulated, because none of them listen to you when you approach them that way. They will not listen to you. Absolutely not. They've been taught not to listen to you. They've been taught to turn against the light while they think they're actually following the light, following the Lord their God. Because if they step out of line, What I tell you, when my rod is coming for your back. Bro, I told you I was pure light now. I ain't afraid of you. Look, okay. Verse 180. No, let's go back up. Verse 178. Lucifer, masquerading as Yahweh, was enraged. With a voice like thunder, he shouted, "How dare you disobey a commandment of the Lord your God? I would let you feel the rod of my chastisement upon your back, but you are still not dense enough to feel its fire. But lo, you are denser now than when I just hold on. But lo, you are denser now than when I last saw you." Adam said, "Lord, ever since we killed the lamb, even I have felt great anguish. We feel terrible. Can you help us feel better?" Lucifer smiled, then spoke. "You feel inner torment because you did not fully carry out my command. Also, this was your first kill, and you are not yet used to it. Once you have become used to it, it will become a great joy. Lo, it is great play. Yea, it is called hunting." Hey, listen, we still doing that now. I mean, I ain't personally doing it, but I'm just saying, listen. Right upon your back like a slave, Kevin. What's going on, brother? Listen, can you help us feel better? Lucifer smiled, then spoke. "You feel inner torment because you did not fully carry out my command. Also, this was your first kill, and you are not yet used to it. Once you have become used to it, it will become a great joy. Lo, it is great play. Yea, it is called hunting. And I am the spiritual father of all hunters, and I see no lies there. He told you the truth. I am your father. You have made yourself the child of a murderer. And I am the spiritual father of all hunters. And you are greatly blessed. For of all the creatures in the garden, you have become the first hunters. Yea, the first blood is on your hands." Reference number 3. Down at the bottom says, "This theme of the first killing of an animal by humankind and the sort of consequences that follows is well described by Upton Ewing in his book, The Essene Christ. For a long excerpt from that book, see expanded footnote 8, excerpt on the fall of man from the Essene Christ." So y'all know we got to go there. Let's put this here and make my place right here. Where we at? 723. Okay, so expanded footnote 8. Folks, look, I'll speak a word on you. Right. Getting the business from the pulpit. Dastardly. Boy, Satan has trained them well. Lucifer has trained them well, right? Hold on. Footnote. Expanded footnotes. I think I went too far. Let's go back. Oh no. The 11th. 11. 7. Expanded footnote 8. Okay. It's on page 1114 in the back if you have the newer one. Okay. Excerpt on the fall of man from the Essene Christ. Upton Ewing, Upton, that's how you spell his first name, and Ewing, Ewing. Upton Ewing, just in case you want to go look this up. Upton Ewing passed from this world prior to the first English publication of the Holy Megillah. Though he never had the privilege of reading the sacred scripture, his own research and spiritual intuition had convinced him that the first Christians were vegetarians of the Essene way. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. The lines are, I need something. Hold on. These pages, they kind of like run together a little bit. Let me just use this. Okay. Hold on. Though he never had the privilege of reading the sacred scripture, his own research and spiritual intuition had convinced him that the first Christians were vegetarians of the Essene way. Using the only resources he had available to him, He wrote 2 books on the topic of vegetarian Essene Christianity. One of those books, The Essene Christ, included a reconstructed New Testament, the Covenant of Love, based on the resources then available to Dr. Ewing. Though lacking access to the Nazarene source documents that we now enjoy, Dr. Ewing did an excellent job of presenting the case for vegetarian Christianity. The Covenant of Love included a passage on the fall of man that is so profound we wish to share it with you. Although he never read the Holy Megillah, his reconstruction of the fall, based on the resources then available to him, certainly is in profound harmony with the Megillah. The following excerpt presents accurately the facts of the fall and also captures the feeling. Quote, and it's like a page and a half. Quote, and God said to man, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed and the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Thus was the divine formula given to man, and to every beast, fowl, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth gave he likewise these things for food. But alas, the will of God was no longer obeyed. The most sacred trust of all time was annulled by the lust of the appetite, and the blood of an innocent creature stained the hands of man. The tree of life was rent with pain. Its leaves hung limp in sorrow. Fear and foreboding grasped the heart of every living creature. The bold became vicious, and the meek fled in terror. And the carcass of dead beasts became the abomination of carnal appetites. Thus did the bold and the vicious fall, and the innocent suffer with the guilty. But the fall of man was greater, for after the killing of his fellow creatures did he slay his own brother. Farther and farther man strayed from the truth of God. More and more did his power of choice become dominated by greeds and lusts. Weaker and weaker became his will to resist the cravings of the senses. Greater and greater grew the separation between the way of God and the way of man, and the true light was obscured by the denseness of man's own maleficent designs, and he no longer recognized the divine presence. Man, therefore, began to invent his own God or gods. He created out of his own mind a creature equal to his wayward nature. He projected into cosmic dimensions his own emotional inconsistencies, his lusts, desires, vanities, and passions. He spilled the blood of virgins, of children, and of the gentle lamb and the faithful ox upon the temple altars to satisfy a lustful God. This is Israel, the chosen people. Cosmon Cow, what's going on, brother? Prince, shalom, shalom. Listen, he spilled the blood of virgins, of children, and of the gentle lamb and the faithful ox upon the temple altars to satisfy a lustful God. He submitted to the extravagances of the temple priests, who provided spiritual remuneration in exchange for his material possessions. With hands soiled by the blood of war and coffers bulging with the loot of conquest, he received the blessings of a covetous God. Think about what happened to Israel in the Bible. Is this not talking about them, the chosen people of the Lord? They are the ones wreaking havoc upon the earth, not even knowing it, thinking they're obeying, doing what's good. And it's in their heart to do good, but they have become enslaved to Lucifer masquerading as Yahweh, masquerading as true God. And they don't even know it. They too afraid to ask questions for fear of the rod hitting that back, hitting that tailbone. Remember at the beginning, what Lucifer said, the conversation between Lucifer and Satan. He said, if they don't fear me, I'm gonna just sum it up. If they don't fear me, I ain't gonna have no power over them, right? So when you pure light and you begin to understand these things, the fear of being damned to hell forever goes away. That's one of the first fears that goes. No, I'm sorry. The first, well, it could be, couldn't it's bordering you blaspheming the Holy Ghost, right? They hit you with a couple things that kind of keep you in there. What I tell you, I'm the Lord your God. You better listen to what I say. I'm gonna put this rod on your back, right? If you start asking questions, all they got to do is raise their voice a little bit, put you back in submission. Oh shoot, what was I thinking? I just momentary lapse of sanity. I'm back. Yes, praise Jesus. Yeah. Yes. How much money you need today in the offering? Oh yeah, I just got paid. I don't need to go to. I don't need food. I'm giving it to the church. Beat you back into submission, right? No disrespect to anybody that's trying to break free, but if you are able to look at some of these things with a humorous outlook, because you too used to be a slave, like I think humor is one of the best ways to help people get free, right? It is. It truly is. You got to be able to look, laugh, and grow. Like, oh yeah, that's how I got all kinds of funny stories for y'all. Look, listen. Let me finish reading this. Let me just go back a little bit. Man therefore began to invent his own god or gods. He created out of his own mind a creature equal to his wayward nature. He projected into cosmic dimensions his own emotional inconsistencies, his own lusts and desires, vanities and passions. He spilled the blood of virgins, of children, and of the gentle lamb and the faithful ox upon the temple altars to satisfy a lustful god. He submitted to the extravagances of the temple priests, who provided spiritual remuneration in exchange for his material possessions. With hands soiled by the blood of war and coffers bulging with the loot of conquest, he received the blessings of a covetous God. Dominating the bodies of thousands of slaves, he constructed great temples of costly marble, arraying himself in lavish costumes. He knelt before glittering altars inlaid with gold and precious stones in a vain overture to a pretentious God. For many centuries, man's freedom of choice had been tolerated by the true God, but too far had he strayed from the purity of his divine creation. Too well had he clothed truth with falseness. Too long had the prophets cried out in vain. Too rudely had the scribes and the mouthings of priests made the laws of God of no effect. And so it came to pass that upon a certain night and in a certain place, the Spirit of the Most High came into this world. He came not as the seeing fire of retribution, but in the light of a single candle among the humble and innocent creatures of his creation. He came. And that's the end of that footnote. So that excerpt we just read was from this gentleman who had also began to study Christianity and realized that what we had been taught was complete lies. And based on what he has gathered before he had access to any of this stuff, this is what he was able to come up with, right? And it is like spot on. You think you're doing what with that rod? Me? Right, I know, right? Punch in the air. A little punch in the air. Dawn. Cosmo said this should apply to the Cain and Abel timeline, not the time priests of Israel, but to the time of the creation of man. It does, Cosmo, because that's what we read about. But this, it just give you this footnote. We got to go back. We're about to go back. Listen, that's literally what we're talking about. And it had this little insert that it was explaining, right? Okay. All right, so let's go back all the way because Abel just came on the scene. Okay, so go back to page 53. All right. Verse 193. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Let's go to 182. Go back to 182. Adam said, Lord, remember he talked to the false guy. He talking to Lucifer, right? Not even realizing it. Adam said, Lord, ever since we killed the lamb, Eve and I have felt great anguish. We feel terrible. Can you help us feel better? Lucifer smiled, then spoke. You feel inner torment because you did not fully carry out my command. Also, this was your first kill and you are not yet used to it. Once you have become used to it, it will become a great joy. Lo, it is great play. Yea, it is called hunting, and I am the spiritual father of all hunters. Look, hold on. And you are greatly blessed. For of all the creatures in the garden, you have become the first hunters. Yea, the first blood is on your hands. And that's what led us into this long footnote back here. So this is where we pick back up on verse 193. And I will heal you of your inner torment. He's lying to them, clearly. We all understand that now, right? And I will heal you of your inner torment. Beyond, I will teach you to take great pleasure in hunting. Your heart will beat fast in anticipation of the kill. You will take delight in sneaking up slowly behind your victim or hiding behind a bush in ambush. And your mouth will salivate in anticipation of the taste of your victim's flesh. But before you can eat the flesh of this lamb, you need to become a bit more dense. And that will be accomplished by more killing, which also will heal your inner torment. Like how, Sway? How that don't make logical sense. More killing is gonna make me feel better, huh? That sounds like insanity completely gone to sea. Like you're out there. Like that. No, how? Explain to me how. More killing, right? Like I'm addicted to drugs. More drugs is gonna make me better. No, it's gonna put me in a deeper state of delusion. That's exactly what he just told them. Listen. And I will heal you of your inner torment. Behold, I will teach you to take great pleasure in hunting. Your heart will beat fast in anticipation of the kill. You will take delight in sneaking up slowly behind your victim or hiding behind a bush in ambush. And your mouth will salivate in anticipation of the taste of your victim's flesh. But before you can eat the flesh of this lamb, you need to become a bit more dense. And that will be accomplished by more killing, which will also heal your inner torment. Lucifer instructed Adam and Eve to make more spears. Then he pointed to some deer eating the grass in the meadow and said, behold, a mother deer and her fawn. Kill the fawn first, then the mother. How? That's terrible. Listen. But before you kill the mother, make certain that she sees the death of her fawn. Adam and Eve killed the deer, first the fawn, then the mother. Then they killed other animals according to the will of Lucifer. At first, the killing was hard, but then it became easier. And by the end of the day, Adam declared, hunting is fun. It makes me feel powerful. But Eve said, I do not like it. It feels wrong within me. Lucifer, hearing the words of Adam and Eve, declared, Adam, you are stronger than Eve because I made you in my own image and likeness. Eve is weaker because I made her from one of your ribs. Genesis. Eve is weaker because I made her from one of your ribs. I made her to be your servant. She is not your equal. This is where the garbage and the conspiracy against women was created. All in the created beginning. The false beginning. The story that was peddled to us, created and peddled to us, right? To put us in this deep delusion, right? And carrying it out like clockwork. Listen, we here to break the state of delusion. This is why we show up every single day. Every day we here to break up the falsities of this realm that we have been enslaved to. I'm here trying to break the spirits of light free. Listen, hold on. Verse 210, Lucifer, hearing the words of Adam and Eve, declared, Adam, you are stronger than Eve because I made you in my own image and likeness. Eve is weaker because I made her from one of your ribs. I made her to be your servant. Yea, she is not your equal. Because you are stronger, you must rule over her. Her purpose in life is to serve me by serving you. She must serve you as though you were me, the Lord God, and you must serve me. If you serve me, you will be a good example for her. Garbage teaching. And now, after example for her is reference number 4. Idiot, like the Willie Lynch letter. Idiot. Oh my gosh, bro, this. the mind screwery that happens that, oh my God, look, listen. All right. Reference number 4 at the bottom says, this same theology in regard to the relationship of woman to man was preached by the Apostle Paul in the Orthodox New Testament almost word for word. And we realized yesterday, I've been telling y'all about Paul, right? Ain't nobody want to listen to me. But yesterday I made it clear that Paul was full of shenanigans, right? This same theology in regard to the relationship of woman to man was preached by the Apostle Paul in the Orthodox New Testament, almost word for word. For a comparison and contrast of Nazarene teachings with the teachings of Paul, see expanded footnote 9, Nazarene Christianity or Paulinity. Let's go. Put my marker back right here, and so I can show y'all how Paul was full of shenanigans. Look. Okay. Look. Hold up. Which one it say? 9. Okay. That's 10. Okay. Shoot. We might. Maybe not. Okay, so this footnote is pretty long. I'm not sure if we're going to need to break this up into a part 3 to finish the rest of this, because this whole chapter is 295 verses, and right now we're at 217. So we might get to finish it, but I don't know. It's still, it's more footnotes. We might have to break this up into part 3, but listen to this, because this is a long footnote about this Paulinity. Okay, if you got the new updated version, we're on page 1116. If you got the older one, just look for expanded footnote 9 in the back. It's in like the page 900 or something. All right, listen. Expanded footnote 9, Nazarene Christianity or Paulinity. Quote, Paul was the first corrupter of the doctrines of Jesus, end quote. Thomas Jefferson, right? Because at first, while I was going through these phases and stuff, I was like, you know what? I gave it to JC. Like, I didn't hold nothing back. As I became brighter and brighter, I was calling out the foolishness. Then I realized, I was like, wait a minute. So maybe he wasn't this just a created character, but this character has been manipulated over time when there was a true, real person, but the truth about him has truly been squandered away, and they transformed him into something else that he was not. And they added things to his mouth that he did not say. Owasby makes that a little bit more clear. And Owasby, they call JC, his real name was Joshua, according to Owasby, right? And he was not crucified on a cross. That comes from the blood doctrines of Begon God. Listen, we're going to get to it again. Just listen. Listen. Quote, Paul was the first corrupter of the doctrines of Jesus, end quote. Thomas Jefferson. Well, Thomas Jefferson was close. Actually, as explained in the expanded footnote 7, the first major corrupter of the doctrines of Yeshua, Jesus, was Peter. After the crucifixion, Peter refused to follow the Lord's appointed successor, Mary Magdalene, because she was a woman. Right, Cosmon. Let's put that up on the screen. Luamong, right? They are following Luamong in Christianity. Lucifer, i.e. Luamong. Look, we're going to get to it. If y'all wasn't here the first time we was going through Owasby, as we go back through, listen, begin to pay attention. If you're still going to church, just pay attention to some stuff. Like, we ain't telling you just walk out the doors of your church, right? Because you may walk out and still be crazy. You may not know what's going on. Just sit and observe. Start asking questions. Do your little research. Take notes, right? So when you leave, it can be of your own volition and you can tell people why. Like, you won't be afraid of them. like you won't duck and dodge them, because they're gonna seek you out because they think you done back. First, they're gonna think the best of it. Maybe the brother, sister is sick. Are you okay? I ain't seen you in church in a while. Then when they realize you ain't sick and they catch you out, oh, you done backslid. Then they're gonna exile you, and then they're gonna tell everybody to stay away from you for you catch the backsliding disease, right? Look, hold on. Look. After the crucifixion, Peter refused to follow the Lord's appointed successor, Mary Magdalene, because she was a woman. Peter led the first schism off the original Nazarene Christianity, throwing out the divine feminine, founding what became known as Ebonite Christianity. Most scholars refer to this Ebonite Christianity by the term Jewish Christianity, though Peter and the Ebonites never used that term. Paul led the second major schism in Christianity, founding the Roman Christianity that evolved into the Roman Catholic Church and gave birth to both the Eastern Orthodox faith and the Protestants. He said Protestantism. I said that wrong, but gave birth to the Protestants too. Look. Paul, who came on the scene 20 years after the crucifixion and never met Yeshua, infiltrated and then led a schism off of Peter's Ebonite Christianity, which at that time was the only form of Christianity large enough in Israel to bother infiltrating. The Nazarene form was much smaller in Israel, most of its leaders already having been killed, and the Magdalene having fled to France, then called Gaul, Gaul. Rather than criticize Thomas Jefferson for being a bit off in his assertion that Paul was the first corrupter of the doctrines of Jesus, we commend Jefferson for having noticed the fact that Paul had indeed changed Yeshua's doctrine. Right. And then he come back and tell you, and if anybody else preach another gospel than what we preach, may he be accursed, even if it's an angel coming down from heaven. Right. And they keep you locked into his crap. Look, but I'm like my G. Remember that I ain't scared of none of you. I ain't scared of none of you ninjas. Look, Jefferson, without any of the recently discovered scrolls or scholarly works, simply noticed that the teachings of Jesus in the mainstream New Testament were very different from the teachings of Paul. In fact, there were many more words of Paul than Jesus in the mainstream New Testament, and modern Christianity is based on more the teachings of Paul than the teachings of Yeshua, Jesus. Unto having access to the Holy Megillah and related texts, I, like Jefferson, believe Paul to have been the first corrupter of the teachings of Yeshua. Although I later realized that Paul was second to Peter in chronology of schisms, Paul's schisms has had the biggest effect in that his form of Christianity, which I call Paulinity, evolved into modern Christianity. Jefferson, noticing the wild divergence of the opinions of Paul from the teachings of Jesus, took a pair of scissors and cut all the words of Paul out of his Bible. Sound like me. Rip this page out. Well, what we need this for? This is garbage. Like, cross that out. Look, Jefferson, noticing the wild divergence of the opinions of Paul from the teachings of Jesus, took a pair of scissors and cut all the words of Paul out his Bible. Paul about to get... Oh, that's right. That's right. The jank going on tonight. Look, everybody, somebody drop that link for that debate with Malachi tonight. Bro, they talking about this. I forgot. Yo, somebody drop the link for that. Everybody has got to go watch that. I'm going to repost it on all of the places that I stream from so everybody can tune in to that. Listen, bro, I'm there. I am there. Matter of fact, if I can stream it, because I think we can stream stuff to our channels, right? I'm going to see if I can stream that just in case somebody forget the memo or something or don't get the memo. I'm going to see. But if I don't, that means I couldn't figure it out. So, look, I know. How you going to win when you ain't right within? That's my girl. Look. Okay, look. Okay. Let me go back. Okay. Jefferson, noticing the wild divergence of the opinions of Paul from the teachings of Jesus, took a pair of scissors and cut all the words of Paul out his Bible. Thomas Jefferson is not the only great thinker to notice that. Even when we confine our observations to the mainstream New Testament, the teachings of Paul differ radically from the teachings of Jesus. Some of the other great thinkers who noticed this and wrote about it include the following. The Reverend V.A. Holmes Gore, in his book, Christ or Paul, wrote, quote, "Let the reader contrast the true Christian standard with that of Paul, and he will see the terrible betrayer of all that the master taught, For the surest way, for the surest way to betray a great teacher is to misrepresent his message. That is what Paul and his followers did. And because the church has followed Paul in his error, it has failed lamentably to redeem the world. The teachings given by the blessed Master Christ were as utterly opposed to the Pauline gospel as the light is opposed to the darkness. The great theologian Soren Kierkegaard, writing in the journals, echoes the above sentiment. Quote, "In the teachings of Christ, religion is completely present tense. Jesus is the prototype, and our task is to imitate him, become a disciple. But then, through Paul came a basic alteration. Paul draws attention away from imitating Christ and fixes attention on the death of Christ, the atoner. What Martin Luther in his Reformation failed to realize that even before Catholicism, Christianity had become degenerate at the hands of Paul. Paul made Christianity the religion of Paul, not of Christ. Paul threw the Christianity of Christ away, completely turning it upside down, making it just the opposite of the original proclamation of Christ." End quote. The brilliant theologian Ernest Renan, in his book St. Paul, wrote, quote, "True Christianity, which will last forever, comes from the gospel of Christ, not from the epistles of Paul. The writings of Paul have been in danger and a hidden rock and causes the principal defects of Christian theology." End quote. Will Durant, in his Caesar and Christ, wrote, quote, and I'm not sure if Malachi, you here, you probably know all this stuff. Like you didn't, because I heard you talk about some of these references. Bro, I ain't telling, but I don't know, it's probably in your arsenal. I'm a student here to learn. Like, bro, I'm so there. Listen. The brilliant theologian Ernest Renan, in his book St. Paul, wrote, quote, "True Christianity, which will last forever, comes from the gospel words of Christ, not from the epistles of Paul. The writings of Paul have been in danger and hidden rock." What in the world? Hold on, just 1 second. Let me make sure I'm not wrong. Hey, everything's okay? Hey, what's up? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, give me give me a few minutes. I'm gonna call you back. Okay. All right, bye-bye. All right. Okay. I just had to make sure everything was good. They scare me sometimes when they call me in the morning. All right, okay. Will Durant, in his Caesar and Christ, wrote, quote, "Paul created a theology of which none but the vaguest warrants can be found in the words of Christ. Through these interpretations, Paul could neglect the actual life and sayings of Jesus, which he had not directly known. Paul replaced conduct with creeds as the test of virtue. It was a tragic change." End quote. Robert Frost, winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 1924, 1931, 1937, and 1943, in his A Mask of Mercy, wrote, quote, "Paul, he's in the Bible too. He is a fellow who theologize, I'm sorry if I messed that word up, theologize Christ almost out of Christianity. Look out for him. End quote. James Baldwin, in his book, The Fire Next Time, declared, quote, the real architect of the Christian church was not the disreputable, sun-baked Hebrew Jesus Christ who gave it its name, but rather the merciless, fanatical, and self-righteous Paul, end quote. Martin Buber, the most respected Jewish philosopher of this century, wrote in Two Types of Faith, quote, the Jesus of the Sermon on the Mount is completely opposed to Paul, end quote. The famous mystic poet and author Khalil Gibran declared in Jesus, the Son of Man, quote, this Paul is indeed a strange man. His soul is not the soul of a free man. He speaks not of Jesus, nor does he repeat his words. He would strike with his own hammer upon the anvil in the nature of one whom he does not know. Wow. End quote. Above, the great Gilbert accurately reported something that I noticed when I first read the epistles of Paul as a youngster. Paul does not quote from the words of Jesus. Even before the Gospels were written, all initiated Christians were instructed in the sayings of Jesus. When you read the epistles of Paul, the father of mainstream Christianity, all you get is Paul's own ideas. He never quotes the wise sayings of Jesus, neither does he report on the life of Jesus. That point is also made by the famous theologian Helmut Koester in his The Theological Aspects of Primitive Christian Heresy. Quote, Paul himself stands in a twilight zone of heresy. In reading Paul, one immediately encounters a major difficulty. Whatever Jesus had preached did not become the content of the missionary proclamation of Paul. Sayings of Jesus do not play a role in Paul's understanding of the event of salvation. Paul did not care at all what Jesus had said. Paul had been completely successful, very little of the sayings of Jesus. What? Hold on. I think I'm reading it too fast or something. Okay. I was. Had Paul been completely successful, very little of the sayings of Jesus would have survived, end quote. The English philosopher Jeremy Bentham, in his Not Paul, but Jesus, declared, quote, it rests with every professor of the religion of Jesus to settle within himself to which of the two religions, that of Jesus or that of Paul, he will adhere, end quote. The eminent theologian Ferdinand Christian Bauer, in his Church History of the First 3 Centuries, wrote, quote, what kind of authority can there be for an apostle who, unlike the other apostles, have never been prepared for the apostolic office in Jesus' own school, but had only later dared to claim the apostolic office on the basis of his own authority? The only question comes to be how the apostle Paul appears in his epistles to be so indifferent to the historical facts of the life of Jesus. He bears himself but little like a disciple who has received the doctrines and the principles which he preaches from the master whose name he bears, end quote. The great Mahatma Gandhi, the prophet of nonviolence who won freedom from England for India, in an essay titled Discussion on Fellowship, wrote, quote, I draw a great distinction between the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus and the letters of Paul. Paul's letters are a graft on Christ's teachings, Paul's own gloss apart from Christ's own experience. Let me read it again. Quote, I draw a great distinction between the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus and the letters of Paul. Paul's letters are a graft on Christ's teachings, Paul's own gloss apart from Christ's own experience, end quote. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist, wrote in his essay, A Psychological Approach to Dogma, quote, Saul's Paul's name before his conversion, fanatical resistance to Christianity was never entirely overcome. It is frankly disappointing to see how Paul hardly ever allows the real Jesus of Nazareth to get a word in. End quote. As you can see, I am quoting from the intellectual cream of humanity. A few more, and I will consider my point to be made. Let us continue with George Bernard Shaw, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1925. In his Androcles, is that how you say that word? Androcles. Androcles and the Lion, we read, quote, there is not one word of Pauline Christianity in the characteristic utterances of Jesus. There has really never been a more monstrous imposition perpetrated than the imposition of Paul's soul upon the soul of Jesus. It is now easy to understand how the Christianity of Jesus was suppressed by the police and the church, while Paulinism overran the whole Western civilized world, which was at that time the Roman Empire, and was adopted by it as its official faith. End quote. Let us follow that Nobel Prize winner with another. Albert Schweitzer, winner of the 1952 Nobel Peace Prize, has been called, quote, one of the greatest Christians of his time, end quote. He was a philosopher, physician, musician, clergyman, missionary, and theologian. In The Quest for the Historical Jesus and his Mysticism of Paul, he writes, quote, Paul did not desire to know Christ. Paul shows us with what complete indifference the earthly life of Jesus was regarded. What is the significance? What is the significance for our faith and for our religious life? The fact that the gospel of Paul is different from the gospel of Jesus. Let me read that whole sentence again. I screwed it up. Paul did not desire to know Christ. Paul shows us with what complete indifference the earthly life of Jesus was regarded. What is the significance for our faith and for our religious life? The fact that the gospel of Paul is different from the gospel of Jesus. The attitude which Paul himself takes up towards the gospel of Jesus is that he does not repeat it in the words of Jesus and does not appeal to its authority. The faithful thing is that the Greek, the Catholic, and the Protestant theologies all contain the gospel of Paul in a form which does not continue the gospel of Jesus, but displaces it, end quote. William Reid wrote in his book, Paul informs us, quote, the obvious contradictions in the three accounts given by Paul in regard to his conversion are enough to arouse distrust. The moral majesty of Jesus, his purity and piety, his ministry among his people, his manner as a prophet, the whole concrete ethical religious content of his earthly life signifies for Paul's Christology nothing whatever. The name, quote, disciple of Jesus, end quote, has little applicability to Paul, Jesus, or Paul. This alternative characterizes, at least in part, the religious and theological warfare of the present day, end quote. Rudolf Bultmann, one of the most respected theologians of this century, wrote in his Significance of the Historical Jesus for the Theology of Paul, quote, it is most obvious that Paul does not appeal to the words of the Lord in support of his views. When the essentially Pauline conceptions are considered, it is clear that Paul is not dependent on Jesus. Jesus' teaching is, to all intents and purposes, irrelevant for Paul, end quote. Walter Bauer, another eminent theologian, wrote in his Orthodoxy and Heresy in Earliest Christianity, quote, if one may be allowed to speak rather pointedly, the Apostle Paul was the only arch-heretic known to the apostolic age, end quote. My point has been made. Many great thinkers joined Thomas Jefferson in declaring that Paul replaced the teachings of Jesus with his own very different teachings, right? And if you searching for truth long enough and you go and start picking through it to really understand it, you will realize that something is off about it. And right, Cosmon. He said there's one hell of a choice between Paul and Jeebus, because both them niggas is lying. Listen, we know that, right? But a lot of people that's under the strong delusion still cannot see it. They don't understand it, right? Which is why we got to use wisdom to help break our brothers and sisters free of this strong delusion. We gotta come in and cut the lights on for them, right? But a lot of them, they just, oh no, cut the light off, right? We the light workers up in this joint. Hold up. My point has been made. Many great thinkers joined Thomas Jefferson in declaring that Paul replaced the teachings of Jesus with his own very different teachings. Readers of the Holy Megillah know that the Nazarene Christianity includes vegetarianism. It is Paul who threw the vegetarian teachings of Yeshua, Jesus, out of Christianity. In his epistle called Romans, Paul wrote, quote, "He who is weak eat only vegetables." Y'all remember that? Listen, look. He who is weak eats only vegetables, for meat destroys not the work of God. Like, bro, the more you understand and the more you read through the New Testament and these Pauline epistles, it's like gravel in your mouth. Like it is heresy at its highest form. Later, after Paul had led an outright schism against the, quote, old apostles, end quote, i.e. against those who had actually known, walked with, and been trained by Jesus, which the true one that this is talking about, the Nazarene, is who Owaspi calls Joshua, who was true, right? He was a true follower of Creator, right? And he didn't talk about himself. Don't follow me as I follow me. No, that was something Paul said that. He constantly told you about the Creator, how you could develop yourself, right? He wasn't all that. There was no worshiping him, none of that stuff. Look, listen. Later, after Paul had led an outright schism against the, quote, old apostles, end quote, i.e. against those who had actually known, walked with, and had been trained by Jesus, he went so far as to call vegetarianism a doctrine taught, quote, taught by demons, end quote, in 1 Timothy. Paul declared, quote, "The Spirit cleverly warned me that in latter times some would abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons." They talking about us, the ones that are breaking free from the heresy, right? They talking about Paul getting them ready for people like us that's breaking out, right? Look, they are under a spell, and they are constantly teaching them to turn against the light that will help set them free. Bro, listen. Later, after Paul had led an outright schism against the old apostles, i.e. against those who had actually known, walked with, and been trained by Jesus, he went so far as to call vegetarianism a doctrine taught by demons. In 1 Timothy, Paul declared, quote, "The Spirit clearly warned me that in latter times some would abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars, commanding people to abstain from meats, which God created to be eaten with thanksgiving. For every animal created by God is good for eating, and none are to be refused if received with thanksgiving." Lord, thank you for this dead flesh that I'm about to put in my greedy gut. All of y'all is foolish, right? This just proves my point. This proves Molly correct, right? I hope Malachi got all the, he always got a fire arsenal to come back. He been doing this thing for years, right? Ain't nobody been able to step to him for real. This debate is already won. Before we even tune in, when I first saw, I'm like, what is this guy doing? I'm like, how does he even have the gall to go up against Malachi? I'm like, did he watch any Malachi stuff? And what I find out a lot of time, a lot of people that go debate some of these guys like Malachi and Cosmon Cal and Selah and the other, I'm sorry, I always be messing up the other Cosmon name. I'm so sorry, brother. That they go to debate them. They's like, yeah, I'll debate that ninja, right? They go in there all full of emotion, completely ignorant, right? Full of just full of ignorance and fire and excitement, and they have no grounding whatsoever. Literally, they look like rag dolls in them debates. I'm like, bro, like just tap out, just get out the ring, get out. But they that ego, they won't let go. Like if y'all watch Dr. Strange, that the ego was the first thing you got to deal with. This is gonna be a show against. Thank you. I'm sorry, Daryl Cosmon. I'm sorry, I'm messing up your name, bro. That's the other Cosmon I was talking about. Listen, they go in here. It's like, listen, you got truth filled with the spirit of creator going against emotion and no grounding whatsoever, but the grounding in the lies you have. You are coming up against truth with the lies that your forefather has passed down to you. This debate is won before it started, right? When they said, look, when they put it up, boom, the two people, like matter of fact, they should go ahead and give a tally. Somebody need to be doing like a tally and stuff. Y'all know how y'all can do. Everybody vote. Look, everybody vote. Somebody put that out there. Look, and then I think that might spook some people. That might piss some people off. Like they got him winning, like when they do with the election, they got the polls running, and everybody come like, yo, you know what the polls say? Like it should be 100% in the favor of Malachi tonight. Like I'm convinced of this. Like the other guy just seen short snippets. I was like, oh, he ain't ready. Why would he even take this debate? Malachi's like, come as you will. All who will come on, right? And all the brothers that's been studying this, they like that. I'm like, yo, this is gonna be a massacre. But I love the way they do it, though. They don't go in there with the intent to massacre them, like, get over here and like destroy them, right? They literally like, get over here and let me teach you something, bro. Come here, listen, right here. Let me show you, right? But the other guys, they been there coming there, guns blazing. They trying to draw blood and stuff. While they in there doing like this, you know, they masters in this thing, right? They doing like this, deflecting all their arrows and bullets and stuff. And they still, even though they won't admit it because the ego is in a way, they get in there and they with wisdom, they land their blows right in the depths of their shanana. Pierce there. They deflecting all your blows, but here, right straight to the shanana. Boom, and they taking it. And then after the debates are over, they go quiet for a while. Because they got to think about what just happened to them, right? They get up in there, they talk, yeah, I won. They talking about this other dude won. Who is this? We ain't never heard of it. Like, I won, but they think like, oh my God, like, dude was saying some stuff. I need to, all right, y'all, I catch y'all. They go home and cry. And they going through, it make them go back and open up their Bible. Well, he did say, oh my God. Is it? No. And the ego starts talking again. No, I'm the real God. Listen to me. Hear my voice. Right? And I love these baits because it helps to wake them up. At least I would hope it's waking them up, right? It's shooting the truth right to the core of them, right? Break the state of delusion. All right, let me finish this. We gotta go. We definitely gonna have to make this a part 3 tomorrow to finish this. Hold on. I'm gonna finish this footnote. Hold on. Oh, the vegetables thing. That's right. Okay. Look. Hold on. Oh boy. Nazarene is seeing this. Oh man. But I'm gonna be there with my popcorn. What? I'm in the background just like that. Look. Okay, y'all. All right, so go back. We're on page 1120. We're almost done with this footnote. It's okay. About 5-10 more minutes. Look, if y'all gotta go to work, y'all know we are. Oh my gosh, we already at 2 hours. The time just flies in the morning. Okay, Y'all got to go to work. Y'all know the deal. Don't get in trouble with the man, with your boss and stuff. This is recorded. Come back, right? You can't be like, you have to stay in balance, right? Don't neglect the physical things you have to do while you're trying to grow your spirit. They should be growing together in tandem, right? If you got to go to work, if you work for somebody else, do what you're supposed to be doing, right? Okay. Later, hold on, let me see. Okay. Let me just read this again at the top. Later, after Paul had led an outright schism against the old apostles, i.e., against those who had actually known, walked with, and had been trained by Jesus, he went so far as to call vegetarianism a doctrine taught by demons. In 1 Timothy, Paul declared, quote, "The Spirit clearly warned me that in latter times some would abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars, commanding people to abstain from meats which God created to be eaten with thanksgiving. For every animal created by God is good for eating, and none are to be refused if received with thanksgiving." End quote. Paul has asserted that those whose, quote, faith is weak only eat vegetables, end quote, and that, quote, every animal created by God is good for eating, end quote. He has even gone so far to call vegetarianism a doctrine taught by, quote, hypocritical liars and demons, end quote. Question: does Paul consider Jesus to be a hypocritical liar or a demon? For both forms of Christianity that existed when Paul came on the scene 20 years after the crucifixion, the original Nazarene Christianity and Peter's Ebonite Christianity taught vegetarianism and made clear that the doctrine was straight from the lips of Jesus. It would seem that only an amazing egotist, right? I didn't even know he was going to say the word ego, right? We've been talking about this. This day ego is all in the way. One of the main things Dr. Strange teach you, like if you're going to grow spiritually, you have to put that ego to bed. Like literally, you probably should kill it yourself. It's going to keep you with the big head, prideful, and you're not going to be able to break free from the religious doctrines and dogma. It's impossible if you let your ego stay in the way. Like you won't be able to hear anybody, right? This is going to be facts against ego tonight. Listen, I hope this brother just at least halfway listen. Just let the light come in just a little bit. We'll see how it go. Look, okay. It would seem that only an amazing egotist would set aside the teachings of Jesus and replace them with his own. And in fact, there is evidence in Paul's writings that he was a sort of egoist, wanting people to follow him rather than Jesus. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, Paul declares, quote, "Be imitators of me. I commend you because you remember me in everything," end quote. That verse not only illustrates Paul's desire to have people follow him rather than Jesus, but leads directly to another alteration of Jesus's doctrine, the equality of men and women. Paul wrote, quote, "Be imitators of me. I commend you because you remember me in everything. But I want you to understand that while the head of every man is Christ, the head of every woman is her husband, and any woman who prays with her head uncovered dishonors her husband. And if a man will not cover her head with a veil, then her hair should be shaved off. For if a man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but a woman is the glory of man, neither was man created for woman, but woman for man. That is why a woman ought to have a veil on her head as a sign of submission to her husband, that all men and angels will see. And if anyone disagrees with me about this, they must be told to obey, for nothing else is acceptable in the churches of God," end quote. So let me now, because I have a covering on my head, for those that don't know, I ain't covered my head because of this rule of Paul. Y'all had been here with me for a while to understand why I cover my head. I'm a Nazarite. I've taken a Nazarite vow, and my glory is upon my head. That is my vow to my creator of truth and what I've decided to do, right? I don't wear it covered all the time. I just kind of do it here in the mornings, right? Because it's that's my vow, right? That's my thing. That's my thing. So that's why I cover, not because I should have my head covered because I'm a married woman and all this stuff. It ain't got nothing to do with that. Ain't got nothing to do with the price of tea in China. I cover my hair because I wear my vow upon my head. I'm a Nazarite, right? Okay. Similarly, Paul declares in chapter 5 of Ephesians, quote, wives, be subject to your husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife in the same way that Christ is the head of the church. As the church is subject to Christ, so must wives be subject to their husbands in everything, end quote. If you think the above words of Paul are not only egotistical, quote, be imitators of me, end quote, but also brand him as a male chauvinist, hold on to your hats, especially you women in church. It gets worse. In chapter 14 of 1 Corinthians, Paul writes, quote, in all Christian churches, women should keep silent whenever in church. Y'all don't know how many little nasty grams I got from people and emails and stuff. See, Israel, you shouldn't be doing this. You're not even reading the Torah. Women should not be teaching. I'm like, sis, you sound like Paul. I was like, and I'm quite appalled that another sister would approach me with such garbage. Sometimes I like to play with people, but I'm just like, bro, get out my inbox. Listen. Quote, in all Christian churches, the women should keep silent whenever in church, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be subordinate. If there is anything they desire to know, let them ask their husbands at home. For it is shameful for a woman to speak in church. If anyone thinks he is a prophet or spiritual, he must acknowledge that what I am writing to you is true and from the Lord God. End quote. One more example of how even confining our discussion to the mainstream, One more example of how even confining our discussion to the mainstream Bible, it is obvious that Paul taught a very different doctrine than Jesus. That example is slavery. In chapter 6 of Ephesians, Paul instructs Christian slaves to obey their Christian slave masters as though the slave master were Jesus Christ. Quote, slaves, be obedient to your masters with fear and trembling as to Christ, end quote. We talked about the slave Bible. They actually have a slave Bible that they use for a certain race of people, the ones that look like me, right? Bro, what they did with religion is horrific. Listen, look, I like that. It's my crown, excuse me, my crown. Look, quote, slaves, obey in everything those who are your earthly masters, fearing the Lord. Hold on, I think I skipped what you call it. Okay, let me go back. Let me just go back up. One more example of how even confining our discussion to the mainstream Bible, it is obvious that Paul taught a very different doctrine than Jesus. That example is slavery. In chapter 6 of Ephesians, Paul instructs Christian slaves to obey their Christian slave masters as though the slave master were Jesus Christ. Quote, slaves, be obedient to your masters with fear and trembling as to Christ. End quote. Likewise, in chapter 3 of Colossians, Paul orders Christian slaves in another congregation to obey their Christian slave masters. Quote, slaves, obey in everything those who are your earthly masters, fearing the Lord. Same crap Lucifer pulling on them in the garden, right? End quote. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, Paul instructs his ministerial student Timothy in the Pauline doctrine on slavery, and then displays his egotistical megalomania by asserting that anyone who disagrees with him knows nothing. Quote, Christian slaves must work hard for their owners and regard their owners as worthy of all honor. If their owner is a Christian, that is no excuse to slow down their labor. Rather, they should labor all the harder because a brother in faith is profiting from their toil. Timothy, teach this truth and demand that all obey. If anyone disagrees or teaches otherwise, he is puffed up with conceit and knows nothing. Timothy, some may deny that this is the sound message of Jesus Christ and may dispute over the meaning of Christ's words. These arguers have warped minds, are stupid and depraved. This is what Paul full of shenanigans is telling people, and they believe in it. From the pews to the pulpit, keeping lights enslaved. And you love it to be so. Oh, and my people love it to be so. They love the lies that they're being told, right? When you have all of what you need to just break free and begin to walk in truth, they're only holding you in captivity by what they've taught you to believe. All it takes is a change of belief to shift your life and everything about it. But you have to be the initiator of that. We just here trying to egg you on a little bit, throwing this truth out here like, oh man, they still look, just keep on leaving breadcrumbs. Just throw this, just leave it around. Because we can give it to you, but we can't. Like you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. But you can show enough take his head and push it in the water and cause him to drown. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They try to push your head in there, making you drown. They got to first realize they thirsty. Somebody smart would make them thirsty. Give them something, just add a little bit more salt to it. What does salt do? Salt makes you thirsty. Then you realize, oh my God, where is that water? Let me get a drink of that water. You ain't got to push their head in there. You just got to use a little bit of wisdom and make them thirsty so they can choose of their own volition to go drink themselves. Where is that glass of water? Listen, I don't believe any of my readers can imagine the above words of Paul on slavery as having come from Jesus. Jesus, the Messiah and founder of the religion Paul claimed to represent, declared, quote, "The Spirit of God is upon me. God has sent me to help the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives," end quote. Yes, the above words, upholding slavery, like the previous words, downgrading women, are printed on the pages of the supposedly holy Bible. Oh, I gotta check my battery, y'all. Woo, I gotta hurry up. We're almost done with this. Okay, I gotta hurry up. I gotta read a little bit faster. Okay, hold on. Yes, the above words, upholding slavery, like the previous words, downgrading women, are printed on the pages of the supposedly holy Bible, the book that Pauline Christians call the Word of God. The above excerpts from the Pauline Bible upholding slavery were used by governmental and religious authorities to defend the institution of slavery for nearly 1900 years. In fact, when Abraham Lincoln first tried to put an end to slavery in America, many Christian churches opposed him and used the above words of Paul to defend slavery in America. Or Wasby goes into detail about Lincoln, right? Hey, Pam, I'm coming from 264 head to Charlotte. Drive safe. Look, if you weren't there when we read it, just stick around a little bit longer when we get to that part. If you have no Wasby, I forget what page. Somebody throw that page in there about Lincoln and what happened during that era when the information to help set the slaves free here in Guatemala, here in America, it was ordained literally from heaven, like go set them people free. But it wasn't just happening over here with us, it was happening everywhere. We're just indoctrinated with what we're indoctrinated here on this landmass. And we just kind of hear this story all the time. But there was a slavery of different peoples all over the world. And there was freedom that was coming to all because the Creator was like, I created free children. Go set them all free. Right, boy? Listen. In fact, when Abraham Lincoln first tried to put an end to slavery in America, many Christian churches opposed him and used the above words of Paul to defend slavery in America. The Southern Baptist denomination was formed to defend the practice of slavery in America. Their theological defense of slavery was based on the words of Paul, the shenaniganizer. And even the Ku Klux Klan based their early pro-slavery propaganda on the above words of Paul. The Klan was formed 3 years after the end of the Civil War, but hoped to overturn the freedom won by Blacks and return to slavery. How many whipped back blacks, how many whipped black backs, stretched black necks, lynchings, cross burnings. Yes, the Christian cross burned in front of a Black person's home is a symbol of the Pauline Christian clan, and burned Black churches are directly attributed to the above words of Paul. And the churches now, you ain't got to have the Ku Klux Klan out here. They done brainwashed you so, and you doing it yourself. And they sitting back here laughing at you. I know it burns my buttons. If buttons could be burned in a way that affects my spirit. Let me grab my charger, y'all. Hold up. Listen, it's right here. Hold up. I'm gonna have to do something about this light now. Okay. This is about to die, but I gotta finish reading this footnote. I promise y'all we almost done. Hold up. Let me see what we can do. Dang, I only got this one. Hold on. I got it. Boom. Hold up. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. We almost done. Oh no, that was it. That was the end of that footnote. Okay. Yeah. How many whipped black backs, stretched Black necks, lynchings, cross burnings? Yes, the Christian cross burned in front of a Black person's home is a symbol of the Pauline Christian clan, and burned Black churches are directly attributed to the above words of Paul. Look. Okay, and that's the end of that footnote. So if we go back to page 53, we stopped at verse 2:17. We're gonna still stop right here, but now that we done read this whole footnote, let me just go back and reread this, and we're still gonna pause right here. We're gonna cut it off when I get back to the end of here, and we're just gonna pick it up right here tomorrow. But now that we done read this and we jump to the footnote, we have a deeper understanding. Let's go back and reread these couple scriptures right here, and we'll pick it up. Okay, so go back up to let's go to verse 200. Lucifer instructed Adam and Eve to make more spears. Then he pointed to some deer eating grass in the meadow and said, "Behold, a mother deer and her fawn. Kill the fawn first, then the mother. But before you kill the mother, make certain that she sees the death of her fawn." Adam and Eve killed the deer, first the fawn, then the mother. Then they killed other animals according to the will of Lucifer. At first, the killing was hard, but then it became easier. And by the end of the day, Adam declared, "Hunting is fun. It makes me feel powerful." But Eve said, "I do not like it. It feels wrong within me." Lucifer, hearing the words of Adam and Eve, declared, "Adam, you are stronger than Eve because I made you in my own image and likeness. Eve is weaker because I made her from one of your ribs. I made her to be your servant. Yea, she is not your equal. Because you are stronger, you must rule over her. Her purpose in life is to serve me by serving you. She must serve you as though you were me, the Lord God, and you must serve me. If you serve me, you will be a good example for her. Yea, and a good example for children you will make with Eve." And that's what we're going to pause at right here. So that's when it took us down into this footnote, starting with the women and the Apostle Paul and his garbage teachings and how it expanded and all of this stuff. That's a mess that we're trying to help correct today. Right. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. This has been an amazing time. I'm loving every single moment of it. All right, y'all. So tomorrow we ain't gonna be able to look. Sunday is no holds bar. We can go like a couple hours Sunday and be okay. But tomorrow, I know just when it's getting good. Tomorrow I got class and I have to log in at 8:45. Right. So I'm a graduate student and I can't miss class. Otherwise, it'll be bad for me. All right, y'all. So that being said, y'all, it is Friday. Happy Friday. It is March the 31st, 2023, day 4 of year 5 of reading through books, laws, and prophets. And of the 4-year consecutive day counted is day 1387. We read the next chapter in Owaspi, which is the Lord's 3rd book. We started on page 97 and we went to, it was 98. I thought I wrote it up in here. Then after we got done there, we hopped back over here to the Nazarene book of Genesis, found in the secret Nazarite scroll, also called the Holy Megillah, and it is chapter 9. Yeah, chapter 9, Adam and Eve. And we read another little portion. Today was part 2. Tomorrow will be the last part of this particular just chapter. It'll be part 3. And but today we read pages 50 to 53, and we paused at verse 218. It's 295 verses in all, so we definitely gonna finish that tomorrow. It's another footnote and another expanded footnote tomorrow. Expanded footnote 7. I think we read that the other day. I think it's just re-referring to that. We'll double check it tomorrow. But with that being said, beautiful people, Father, we thank you for daily enlightenment. Daily enlightenment. We thank you for strength to walk in the truth and not be afraid of ninjas when they want to step to us about truth. Like, we can stand our ground because we understand. If you understand the truth that you have and your highest light, walk in it. Can't nobody take away from you what you have, right? But not everything else can be taken away from you, but knowledge is yours forever. Nobody can mess with it, but only you can choose to ignore it and not apply it to your life. Right, beautiful people? I love y'all. I'm going ahead and throw my outro up in here. Y'all enjoyed it. I saw a couple of y'all comments. So we're gonna go ahead and go out with this. Y'all gonna thank you. Don't forget to tune in to the debate tonight. I think somebody might have put it in here. I think Cosmon Cal put in the hashtag for where it's at, but we're gonna get it, and I'm gonna share it with y'all. Let me scroll back up real quick. See if somebody put Malachi's link in here. Over here feeling like I got beefed all of a sudden. Hold on. Yeah, Dr. Ray Higgins said Paul is a made-up character, Elizabeth Ray, so it's something to think about. They done chopped and screwed a lot of stuff, right? Constantine, listen, they did a lot. Whether you want to call it Pam, I'm not Pam, if you want to call it Paul, they listen, everything has been manipulated. But the more you read, and here's what, don't get stuck like the Hebrews get stuck, where now we just angry because you didn't deceive us. Okay, take it in, think about it. Okay, you pissed, but go on from that, right? Okay, what was done? A lot of people get stuck and they stay angry because they just can't get past that they've been deceived. Yeah, it was a total shocker at the point when we first realized it. Yeah, okay, we understand that. All right, let's move on now, right? Because we can't stay here. And that's why a lot of people get hung up in their journey for truth. And as they're trying to make way, they don't learn how to put the anger behind them. Okay, well, maybe they didn't know. They was passed down lies from their forefathers just like us. They probably still don't know what they're doing, right? But now we know, we can assess the situation. Let's keep on going, right? Learn how to work through that anger, that ego, right? Because if you stay there, you're going to get stuck there, right? And you won't progress as fast as you could. Like, I go back and I look at my growth over the last few years. When I learned how to deal with that, the anger, and I deal with the anger with laughter, I realized that's been like the main thing of my life. But I really kind of tuned into that over the last few years, because not only does it help me be able to process things faster, it gets me out of my head a lot faster so I can really sit and assess the situation with a little bit of humor. Yeah, how did I get caught up in that again? Okay, Pam, girl, you weren't paying attention. This is what happened. So boom, here. Remember that? Watch out for that next time. Make sure you let them know, look, when you come down here to the road, they got it covered up with this. Don't you just bypass that altogether, because let me tell you what's there, because I was stuck down there in that hole for like a month and couldn't get out. Nobody could hear me screaming, right? So you got to learn how to deal with all of that. Deal with the anger. Learn how to combat for lack of better words, combat the forces of darkness with the tools of light, right? And wield them appropriately, right? Don't hit your brothers and sisters with those tools in a way that could harm them, just like truth. Some people, you have to give them bits of truth at a time, just like a baby, right? You have to feed them slowly. Otherwise, you could kill them, right? Because even though they will, as they grow, be able to assimilate a little bit more, eat bigger mouthfuls as they get older, right now, their system can't handle it. You literally have to spoon feed them, and you need to burp them every 4 gulps, right? Otherwise, they're going to choke. They're going to have a whole lot of stuff, acid reflux. You cannot bombard people with truth who are not ready. You will literally kill them, and then you will defeat your own purpose of helping them wake up. You have to learn to understand who your audience is. How much can they take? Come to them on their level and help them grow. And don't get pissed when they're not growing as fast as you think they should. Everybody grows at different rates. Understand that about yourself, and be able to just be able to rock out with people, understand where they at, and keep it moving, right? Okay. That's why I'm sitting now. I'm at peace for real. I'm telling you, it's the best peace you will ever have. Look, okay. I couldn't find a link. I don't think nobody put it in here. That's what I was looking for, and I was scrolling for. But I'll post it. It'll be in a community section. I'll post it and pin it under this video on all the places so you can see it. So just tune it in there. If I can stream it from my channel, I'm going to stream it from my channel tonight. Right? All right. All right, beautiful people. That's it. Yeah, Molly gonna raise him. That's what I like. Molly gonna raise him up tonight, right? I hope the brother is at least I hope I hope he's a good debater, right? If you look at how debates are done, debates should be done with people who are not going in there just to spew on people what they know with, and they're just quiet for the moment just so they can continue spewing what they know without really engaging with them, right? It should really be a dialogue amongst two people with different points of view, right? They need to learn how to listen, think about what they said, assimilate it, and come back. Okay, I see that. I don't quite agree with that. Let me explain to you why I don't agree with that. Because this is what I found out here. Boom, boom, boom. And then, but no, that's wrong. But you're not even giving it. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying you should believe. Let me tell you why I chose to believe this way now. Here is why. And so I chose to believe this way because once I read this, I had to reconsider what I believe here. It's like testing a hypothesis. Anybody ever pay attention to science? This is the thing. This is all we're doing here. We're testing hypothesis. When we have more information, we introduce it into our experiment. We have to account for all the variables. When we introduce this, what changes over here? How does this now come out when we apply it this way? This is all we doing, right? And do it with love. Do it with love. That's our main superpower that the Creator has given to all of us. That's the main tool we should always be using, even if we're correcting somebody and we don't quite agree with the Jeebus they serve, right? When we talk to them, if we're going to win them, if we're going to help raise them up, which is what we should be doing, helping raise up our brothers and sisters, that's one thing I can agree with. If I don't have love, I don't have anything. Right? Because I am not going to be effective in my message if I don't care about you. Like I have to care about you to be able to raise you up. Right? And most of the time, people just care about themselves and their own message. Right? And that's something that I realized the couple days ago when I thought I was live for 30 minutes and hadn't even really realized that I hadn't been live. Like I could see y'all comments and stuff, but it wasn't until somebody said, "Is Pam okay?" And I'm like, darn, some of my face. I'm looking. I didn't talk to nobody for 30 minutes. Got into a groove just talking, like, because this is what I do now. It like really made me think, like, oh my gosh, like that thing. I'm still dealing with that. Like, how could I talk for 30 minutes and not even realize that nobody could hear me? Like I could see them, but they couldn't hear me because I hadn't pressed the live button. Like there are certain checks and stuff that we need to do ourselves as we're growing to begin to actually make sure we're being effective in our message, and all those things that we're trying to teach, we have to apply it to our own life first. And if we don't apply it to our life first, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here? Right? I love y'all. I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out this outro, y'all. Peace.
But I see through you.
I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gold, I've been far away. I'm illuminated now, making moves.
What did you just do to me?
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
What just happened?
For a moment, you entered the astral dimension.
What?
A place where the soul exists apart from the body.
Why are you doing this to me?
To show you just how much you don't know. Open your eyes.
Been dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a coastline.
What's happening? This isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real, this is...
Dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a coastline.
His heart rate is getting dangerously high.
He looks all right to me. You think that this material universe is all there is?
I don't need gravity, I need
What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? Existence. Mind and matter meet. Force shape reality.
I don't need gravity, I just need growth. I'm a fine line, yeah, I'm a mislead of this illusion. I am not really here, I'm an intrusion. I don't swim or sink, I just float.
Some benevolent and life-giving, filled with malice and hunger. Dark places where powers older than time and waiting.
I don't swim or sink, I just float.
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
I don't need gravity, I just need I don't need gravity, I just need growth.
Have you seen that before in a gift shop?
I don't need gravity, I just need growth.
Teach me.
No.
It's an earthquake rumble. I won't ever fall, never stumble. And I don't need to be humble. Break down walls like Jericho crumble.